and this is the lifeboat. All right, folks. Well, you can tell I will not have my bobble-headed partner with me this evening. And there we go. So let me get this thing squared away here. You know the drill. If you've been here before, when I go old school, I kind of have to go old school. So I'm getting this set up so that it'll make some sense. There we go. And we'll get this show underway. I don't mind going old school. Boy, am I washing out with the sun? That's all right. We're stuck with it because I'm not going to go off camera. We've been down that road. The sun is out, right? Because we're in the springtime here in northern Nevada. And I had the window open because I was working on a watch right underneath the getting all of the natural sunlight. There is Jason, my friend. If I'm not mistaken, this would be day 3, Jason, and I'm hoping that that day 3 finds you. I'm hoping that day 3 finds you clean and sober, and that life is good. Proud of you, my friend. Honestly, I'm proud of you for 2 days of fighting the good fight. I'm hoping it's day 3. I really am. I'm hoping that you're doing well, but I'm proud of everything that you're doing. People, Niall, awesome, awesome. Glad that you're here, Niall. People, since I'm going old school, we're going to do a little of the general housekeeping. I'm not a doctor. And let's be really honest. The odds of me becoming a doctor are probably not great. Before you embark on a... M. Hunt, good to see you. Before you embark on any kind of... of undertaking of a big sobriety, especially if you're... drug of choice. I hate that term, especially if your previous substance of abuse is benzodiazepines or alcohol. Consult with a doctor before you just go cold turkey and try to quit, because there are some real dangers associated with that, and we don't want to see anybody. I mean, as much as we want you sober, we don't want you dying in the process, people. We want to make sure that you take all precautions. Nothing takes the place of medical advice. I'm not here to tell you anything that is supposed to take that place. And I'm not giving you, it's not supposed to diagnose, treat, or any of that garbage. Now that we've covered that, 4 quick rules, right? Number 1, we're not going to talk about politics. There's plenty going on in the world. It is. And yes, I am making it. Not crazy about handshaking, but hanging in there. Thanks. You know what? They're gonna steady out, my brother. We're proud of you. Man, I'm proud of you. That's fighting the good fight, and I know it's not easy, man. And there's gonna be mountains to climb. Niall and I talked about it on last Wednesday. There are gonna be mountains to climb, and it's not gonna be easy. But you know what? The payout is worth it. It's so much better. It really is. So keep fighting the good fight. Hey! The Scotch Sonnet. My goodness, it's a reunion show. Good to see you, my poetic brother. So, people, there's not going to be any talks of politics. There's so much going on in the world. I know we'd all like to talk about it, and there's plenty of places you can. This isn't one of them. Let's just keep politics out of this. As far as religion goes, I'm a firm, big believer in a higher power. I'm not going to shove it down your throat. If you want to say that you're praying for somebody, everybody here is pretty cool with that. We don't want you saying things like, my God's better than your God, or this is why you're not getting into heaven. That doesn't fly. There's no place for that. It doesn't benefit anybody, so let's keep that to an absolute minimum, right? In fact, let's just not do it. Then let's keep our language under control. People slip from time to time, whatever, but we don't want a lot of cursing in here because the algorithm treats you differently, and if you can't control your tongue, then you're probably not controlling the rest of your life. For 1 hour, I think you can do it. I got faith in you. And then finally, I've tried to knock the edges off of this and maybe a little bit and be a little bit kinder and maybe a little bit more polished and professional. But we used to call it the mean people suck rule, because mean people are not fun. And there's enough mean in the world in day-to-day life. Hey, good to see you, Jesse Brown. There is enough mean in the world without us needing to add to it here on the lifeboat. If you start treating people cruel, the guys with the blue wrenches are going to get rid of you, because there's just no place for it. It's tough enough trying to fight the good fight when it comes to addiction without people crapping all over you. Leisure Beast, good to see you. People, I'm not sure whether or not you heard this. His real name is not Leisure Beast. I had no idea, but apparently that's not his real name. But it's good to see you, Beast. I'm glad that you're here. Miss V, glad that you're here. Truth. All right. Joanna W. We have got the whole crew. Seems to have made it. Yes, and Niall said, the guy, good to meet you. Glad you were here. I really hope you two get to know one another, because Niall is really an authority on what you're going through right now, and does a real bang-up job in articulating exactly what that process is, and some of the things that I'm barely here tonight. You know what? We're glad you're here. We really are. And, at some point, I think it would be great if you and Niall spent a little time talking, because there's a lot that that man could teach you. Thanks, everyone. This has been the best thing for me, and everybody's support. Well, we're proud of you, Jason. We really are. And I know it's a struggle, man. I know it is. It took me 3 decades, of just trying to get it done before it finally took. And boy, if you can get it done in a shorter period of time, I promise you good things are going to start happening in your life faster. You're going to be happy that that took place. So just keep fighting the good fight. And it's not a cliche, especially in the beginning. It is not a cliche. It's just about getting through the next hour. It really is. It's about taking it 1 hour at a time, sometimes taking it 1 minute at a time. But, if you can just keep staying sober for 1 hour at a whack, the next thing you know, 24 of them are gone and you're into the next day. Stacy Michaels, always good to see you. People, I'm redoing a few timepieces that I got from Stacy Michaels, and probably will show them off here at some point. Not that I'm trying to commingle the lifeboat with the things that I do, but since I got these things from a valued crew member, when they're done, I'm going to show you the before and after and the restorations on them, because it's pretty cool. I'm having a very good time with that. The guy says, Jason Moots, you're in the right place, man. Get in the Facebook group too. Absolutely. You'll see that in the drop-down box, and if you reach out to us, I will make sure I get you approved as soon as possible. And it's just a great place to go if you're telling, if you're in a place and you're struggling, and you're trying to wait for that 6 o'clock West Coast show here on the Lifeboat, you can always go over to the Facebook page. We call it a safe harbor because, let's be honest, social media is not, it's not media, and it sure as heck isn't social most of the time. But the anti-social media thing a lot of times can do more harm than good. Arizona Raven, good to see you. Glad you're here. So, people, tonight's subject matter is something that I'm not sure whether I attacked this. We've done 400 and some odd shows, and I don't know whether or not this is something that we ever attacked. If we haven't, shame on me, because this is a big one. As we start to get rolling in this whole sobriety thing, there is something that I think almost every single addict, over the course of the time that they're practicing and in the addictive lifestyle, we all come to this point where we say, you know what, we're out of control. I got to get my life under control, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start trying to control my addiction. I'm going to start to try to control my drug use. Seventh Son, good to see you. So what ends up happening is people start trying to mitigate the amount of drugs that they're doing, or they try to mitigate the amount of alcohol that they're doing. And when we had Niall on, not on our Wednesdays with Niall, which is a slightly different format, but the first time we interviewed him, he talked about how he tried to get his drug use under control. And there's a ton of control in addiction, but it's not us controlling the drug. It's the drug controlling us and turning us into something that we were never intended or designed to be. Niall said he tried it. Alan Ballantyne said he tried it. Boy, I did. People, if you knew all of the gymnastics that that I needed, that I tried to go through, all of the different things that I was hoping I would be able to pull off. It's pointless. And unfortunately, there are still people out there that believe it. And I was talking to, over the last 3 days, I was talking to several different individuals who they've been on the boat, or they've, I'm not sure how long any of them have been here, but they're crew members now on the boat, and they believe in what we're doing. But you start getting into a conversation, and the person comes out with one of these just absolutely remarkable comments or statements where they say, I think I've reached a phase where I'm going to start cutting down. If you have determined that you need to control a habit, you are at least at the first step of realizing you have a problem. Agreed. Absolutely a fantastic point. The fact that, and this, I'm glad that you said that, because hopefully I would have thought of it, but I may not have, and I didn't want to. It's not something that should be brushed over, because that really does hammer home the fact that, if you're starting to say to yourself, boy, I got to cut back, or I got to try to get under control, then you already know. I mean, in your heart of hearts, Charlie Murphy, in your heart of hearts, you already know that you need help. Noise Opera, good to see you. And maybe what I should say is, you already know that you need to quit doing what you're doing. Whether or not you realize yet that it's probably going to take some assistance to make that happen, I don't know. I guess that's something that would be on an individual basis. But ask yourself, if you are saying, I really need to get this under control, or I really need to cut down, or I really need to only do this on the weekends, or I really need to whatever, then you're probably at a place where this has become out of control. And not to, to use a term that may turn people off, but your life has become unmanageable. There's no two ways about it. If you are sitting there and thinking, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to try to get this under control. Couple of things. Number one, it's a myth that you're going to be able to do that. And it's a myth that we create for ourselves. I'm going to get emails today, because this is how this works. I'm going to get emails today from people who say to me, you know what, I used to do 4 grams of blow a day, and I was able to cut back, and now I only do it 3 times a year, and I don't have a problem. You know what? God bless you. If that worked for you, that's great. But that's not the norm. That is not the norm. The norm is that we all try this control method. We all try this theory of being able to use still. It's one of those situations where most addicts, as Niall brought up, I thought eloquently the other night, and it's we're the reason I did a whole show on it. That fear of, I'm never going to be able to do this again. I have to give up something that has meant so much to me for so long, and now I'm expected to never do this again. This is one of the reasons that most rehab programs suggest that you only attack it one day at a time. Because for most addicts, the concept of, I am never, ever going to do something like this ever again, it just doesn't work. That 3 times a year lasts for 2 months each time for most people. Agreed. I would get sober, and I would come back and start to use again. And the term among people who are addicted to opiates, heroin in particular, they call it chipping, or a chippy. And that is a habit that doesn't go full addiction. And usually 3 days is enough to make you a full-time addict. And I think I've told this story before, but I had these little rocks that had been done with a Dremel tool. And one of them said the number 1 on it. And the second one had number 2 on it. And then the third one it had off. It would say OFF. And I would carry these things in my pocket, so I knew what day I was on. Because if I was on day 3, I had to take that off, because 3 days in a row and I would become addicted. I mean, I knew my habit, really knew it well. And 3 days in a row and I was back to being a heroin addict that needed this stuff every day. And sometimes I would make it a week, sometimes I would make it 2 weeks, but it wasn't like I would make the decision. I would be on the morning of day 3 and I didn't need it. I didn't need it physically. I didn't, but no matter how many times I did this stupidity, I kept trying to convince myself that this time I'm going to be able to do this. I tried cutting down, but definitely that didn't work for me, said Jason. Of course it didn't. You know what I mean? This is a myth. It's a myth that we create. And I was talking to another individual who is planning a relapse. Plain and simple. They're planning a relapse. They've been sober for a period of time, and they're pretty happy about it. So at such and such a day, they intend to party. They're going to come off the wagon intentionally on such and such a day, as sort of to reward themselves for a job well done. And I didn't say anything negative when I was told this, but I was aghast. I was completely blown away. You know, if we could do that, if we had the capability of using and then stopping and then using and then stopping, and well, then we wouldn't need any of these things. We wouldn't need this program. We wouldn't need any safeguards. We would be, air quotes, normal. But it doesn't work, people. It doesn't work. You're never going to control your consumption of alcohol. You're never going to control your consumption of drugs. Am I saying no one on the planet can do that? Absolutely not. There are tons of people that can do that. We can't. We can't. And it doesn't make us bad people. It doesn't. But self-awareness is the key to everything that you're going to do for the rest of your time on this planet. Weird, right? Yeah, weird. Weird that somebody would plan that. And especially if you stop doing what you're doing and life gets good. You know, this was me in a nutshell. Like, I would stop using and boom, I'd start making money. And, you know, I would start getting back all of the things that I had pawned and sold and traded. And I would start to stack up some possessions, and I would get myself a vehicle and maybe get into a relationship, and all of these things. My life would normalize. All of a sudden, I was living a life that was no longer wildly out of control, and it felt great. And I would reward myself by destroying my life and doing the exact same roadmap that I had followed 200 or 300 times, that always ended with these things behind my back, cuffed. And you think to yourself, it's such a cliche, but it's such a good one. I mean, what is the definition of insanity? There is a reason that we call this, Dragonfly says, yep, sounds like me. And don't feel bad that it sounds like you. The fact that you realize that means that you're way ahead of the curve, right? I always knew when I picked up that first one exactly how this story was going to end. And the definition of insanity, people, great cliche. It's a cliche for a reason. But the definition of the word insanity is to continually do the same thing over and over again, and somehow in our twisted, drug-addled minds, believing that we're going to get a different result. If this isn't something that you can put together without some help, allow me to help you. It's not going to work. Addicts are brilliant at associating everything in life with a reason to use or drink. Boom! We are happy? Let's use. We are miserable? Come on, let's use. We are bored? Use. Our lives are happy? Let's use. Sabotage. That's what we call it. You're right. You're right. Right now, I am newly sober again and looking forward to the upswing. I dearly hope it's permanent. You know what, Dragonfly? Here is one of the things that we have found. And by we, I mean the crew here on the lifeboat. And first of all, welcome. I don't think I've ever given you an official welcome here to the lifeboat, so welcome. What we have found is that regardless of whether you're here or someplace else, and whether you believe this or not, I'm rooting for everybody. I don't care where you're getting sober. I don't want anybody to get into the life. I don't want anybody to overdose. I don't want anybody to go down the road that leads to misery. And if you can find that solution and it works for you someplace other than here, God bless you, get there. But the people who are here on the boat, what we have found is that group therapy is the gold standard, right? And it doesn't necessarily matter what form that takes. So If you're a 12-step kind of a person, that's great. But we have found that for a lot of people, there is a certain amount of pressure that becomes associated with 12-step programs, because in order to get what's going on in your life out there so that you can work on it, and you're welcome, you have to let it out, and you have to tell people what's going on. By doing that, some really amazing things can happen. But unfortunately, a lot of people in a lot of programs, you got to stand up and do the, "Hi, I'm Tommy Scoville, and I'm a drug addict." That, for many people, it's not the admission that they're a drug addict that's a problem. It's standing up in a room full of strangers that's a problem. And that shouldn't shock anybody, because public speaking is the number one fear of everyone on the planet. I mean, it's the number one listed fear on the planet. There are people who are not intimidated by public speaking, but the vast majority of people are. They don't enjoy it. So if that is tied to an aspect of sobriety, well, then you're in trouble from Jump Street, aren't you? We're not just asking somebody to get sober. We're asking them to jump outside their comfort zone and admit things that they don't want to tell anybody to a group of strangers, while everybody that they've never met before stares at them. Well, that's a tall order for somebody that's just starting the road to recovery. So we have found that by doing it this way, no one is staring at you. You know, you can come here and you can say, I'm really going through it, and I really feel like getting high. Or you can come here and say, there are things going on in my life that are really making things difficult. And you can open up in a way that is a lot easier than doing it in a room full of strangers. However, opening up to other addicts works. We have seen this so many times. It's really one of those situations. Hold on one moment. Yeah, a lot of people use drugs and alcohol because of social anxieties, and it can be tough to do that. You're right, Dragonfly. You're absolutely right. There are, and we've talked about this recently. This has come up, actually. It has been called social lubricant. It's been called all kinds of things over the years, because drugs and alcohol in particular, one of the first parts of the brain that it affects as you start to first, get the alcohol into the system, one of the first things that it affects is your ability to, that it lowers that inhibition, and you start feeling a whole lot easier. And, you feel like you're the life of the party, and you feel like you're not worried about that. And that becomes, for a lot of people, it becomes a crutch that they can't get through life without. So knowing full well that group therapy really is the gold standard, and as we've said here so many times before, the reason it's the gold standard is because if you try to have a conversation with somebody and explain to them what's going on in your life, usually the first thing people want you to make them understand is how you could possibly do drugs knowing full well the end result. You know what I mean? Like, I get this all the time where people say, how are you going to do, why would you do drugs? You know it's going to end up putting you in prison. You know you're going to end up losing everything you own. And you know that you're going to... So you try... It's like explaining something to someone that can't be explained. But when you get around to other addicts, all of that's off the table. You can get to the meat of the subject, and you can get to the things without having to explain the minutia of something that can't be explained. We understand exactly what you're going through because everybody here has gone through it. We know what it means to have a voice inside that calls to you to do the wrong thing. And here you're going to be surrounded by a lot of people that have done a lot of research. You know what I mean? And we have come to realize that there is a part of the brain that they call the reward center. And it was designed to ensure your safety and your long life. So it gives you feel-good chemicals when certain things happen, like when you procreate, when you have a child, like all of these things, you get these great chemicals released, and it makes you feel wonderful. Like the first time that doctor hands you a baby, and you think, oh my God, it's my child. Well, all of these chemicals get released. In the addict, those same chemicals get released when you abuse drugs. So you're not just getting that rush from the drug or whatever it is you're putting into your system. You're getting this this malfunctioning reward center that starts to give you chemicals to make you feel like what you're doing is a matter of life and death. That really becomes the main difference between us and normal people. Let me see something here. There are a number of reasons why 12-step programs fail. One is the reasons you just explained, being on trial, right? And the other is that it has been watered down to be a reason to bitch and moan. You know something? You're right. It really has. For so many people, that really is what it becomes. I didn't know how much age has to do with not caring about what others think of you. At 45, I am changing the mindset of what I thought was an old man. I don't care what others think. You know what? And I respect that. I really do. And you're right. The older you get, the less you care. You really just sort of lose that. Jason says, I love my wife, but she doesn't understand and tells me to just stop. So that's why I love this, because for the first time in my life, I can talk about this. You're right. And here's the thing. I think this is kind of important. We really can't badmouth. We really can't badmouth the people that don't get it. God bless them. I've got a ton of people in my life that will never understand what it means to be an addict, and I love them. But if I need to talk about things in my life, I'm not going to have that conversation with them, because they just want so badly to understand why I did the stupid things that I did. And as much as I love them and as much as they mean the world to me, I could sit down with them for the next 25 years that I'm alive, and I couldn't make them understand it. And in 3 minutes, everybody here on the boat would. That's why we do this. That's why this is the gold standard. That's why this works, if that makes sense. Niall says, my respect to Bill and Bob, the founding members of AA, is absolute. I agree with you. The meetings, however, will never get you sober. They will provide you an outlet for identification. Well said. The Scotch Sonnet says, addicts who are using truly believe they can keep all the plates spinning, even when they can't hear the crockery crashing around them. What a great way to put it. And it's a fact, right? That's the myth. The myth is I can keep this going. You know what I mean? I'm just going to get high on weekends. You know, that's it. Or I'm not going to have one drink until after 5 o'clock at night. Like if you drink a fifth a day, but you don't start until 5 o'clock at night, somehow this makes it okay. But as addicts, our brain will justify anything to keep us doing what we're doing. So make no mistake, people, this is a myth. There's no control. There's no control. You know how you control drugs and alcohol? By never taking the first one. It's an expression we use here all the time. The way I figured out how to win a fist fight with heroin is to not get into a fist fight with heroin. That's it. The rest of it's a myth. And it's a myth you create. Dragonfly says, that's what my girlfriend says too. I just have one drink. She doesn't get it. Her dad is an alcoholic too, but she doesn't understand that that's okay though. It is okay. It's okay that they don't understand it. But to sit down with them and try to work through problems within the addiction field is like, it's okay that I don't know anything about brain surgery, right? Makes no difference. The fact that I can't do brain surgery doesn't make me a bad person, and it's not that important. But if I get in a room with 3 people who are brain surgeons and they go, hey, Tommy, this is C-line blastoma. What do you think? Should we go? And I'd be like, I'm not the guy you want to ask about this. I don't have any idea what you're talking about. There would be no reason for those people to ask me advice, correct? Okay. You can't go looking for help from people who don't understand what you're going through. Not only is it not going to help, it's going to hurt. You understand? It's going to hinder you getting sober because they have an inner need to understand why we can't have one drink. They have an inner need to understand why no matter how much love and affection and caring they gave us, we still got high. No matter how much they wanted to help us, we walked away and got high. That's the overwhelming need for them, is to understand that. And that can't be understood. It can't be explained. And here, it doesn't have to be. We all get it. We get it because we have a malfunctioning reward center. We get it because we have woke up needing that substance. Doesn't have to be explained. And for that reason, this process works. whether it's here or anywhere else. By the way, I'm not saying that we have the answer to everything. I'm saying group therapy is the answer to everything, right? Being around other addicts, that is the answer. Being around other drug addict and alcoholic people who have managed to get sober is the answer, right? I didn't create it, I promise you, but it's the answer. Sorry, I've had to start working nights again. Haven't been able to make the show. Joe Birdwell, we love you, brother. Life happens. Life happens. We're glad you're here today. There is no such thing as being half an addict. It's ridiculous, right? But it makes sense to an addict to make their addiction acceptable. I took only half today, so I'm getting better. Yeah, right? I was a 5 o'clock somewhere man. Yeah, more often than not. I went with it at 5 o'clock somewhere. Yeah, I was telling somebody yesterday that I just can't stand that expression. I used to think it was pretty funny, but I've gotten to the point where I just can't stand that expression. And maybe that's an age thing too, People, I try so hard not to be the militant sober guy because I got nothing against people that can go and do things. And, I've never had a problem with alcohol. Oddly enough, I've never had a problem with alcohol. But these days, I'm so paranoid that I'll develop an alcohol problem or a whatever problem. I just know that my brain is searching nonstop every day for a reason to dump a ton of reward chemical into my brain. And it would be very happy if whatever I did was habitual. That's just how my brain works. Now, you can call it an addictive personality. The people in psychology says that is not something that exists. They say that that's a concept that addicts have come up with, that there really is no such thing as an addictive personality. I say they're idiots. I mean, honestly, it's whatever, that for whatever that's worth. I'm not a doctor and I'm not wildly learned, but I can tell you something. I can get addicted to something in 4 minutes. If that's not a personality trait, I don't know what it is, but I'm a guy that can get addicted to anything. So I know that, I love the taste of a brew, but the risk, just so that I can taste that's not much of a reward, the risk versus reward. Ooh, that tastes good versus, what? I might find myself drinking at 6 o'clock in the morning. I could very easily fall into whatever the next habit is going to be. And for me, that's just not worth it because I'm not somebody that can control things. I am in the same sort of pain thing you are. I just don't like to drink anymore. You know what? I don't blame you. Dragonfly. I don't want to deal with a hangover, so I'm going to start drinking at 9 a.m. type of guy. Alcohol is really a miserable thing. I had a friend that he's sober now. Wow, a long time. It's got to be more than a decade. But we were talking one time and he said to me, he said, I got drunk once. And he was just serious as all get out. He said, I got really, really drunk once. And in the morning, I had a terrible headache, and his roommate had said to him, well, you just need a little bit of the hair of the dog, You do 3 or 4 shots because you're really in alcohol withdrawal, right? Acute alcohol withdrawal is what's causing the hangover. So if you do 3 or 4 shots, you're not gonna feel sick. And he said 25 years later, like he literally drank every single day for a couple of decades and a half. And then when he finally got sober, it was because he had reached that phase that so many people end up in, where you're either going to be in an institution, like a hospital or something like that, or you're going to wind up incarcerated. And that's what happened to him. He wound up incarcerated, and he worked on a 25-year hangover, which they had to give him medication for because he was, going into the DTs, and it almost killed him. But yeah. Maybe you should not speak to me so much if you're worried about becoming an alcoholic. I think actually that may be the reason you feel that way. Crash course in alcohol addiction. You know what, Niall? Every time you and I talk, it drives home the fact that I don't need that habit. You really do a bang up job of making me understand something that I've never been addicted to. People, I think that you'll find in group therapy that, when Niall and I talk, and whether it's with you guys watching or it's just us talking, I always get a better understanding because there are subtle differences between all of the different substances that people could become addicted to. But the addicting part is pretty much uniform across the board. But when I hear Niall talk, the similarities from what I went through with my habit and the similarities, with his habit are they just jump out at you. But the differences are there too. When Niall will talk about walking down the street and then he'll pass a bar and he'll look in there. This is something that I have no perspective on this at all. The stuff that I did was, just hush hush. And, I did the dirtiest drug in the world by society standards. I mean, when you say heroin out loud, you see people turn, and it's just, that's the worst. Just, film has done a tremendous job of making people realize just how filthy and disgusting that habit is. And you scare people when you bring up the word. But because of that, most heroin addicts do everything they can to make sure that people don't know that. So I'm never walking down the street and seeing a bunch of people in a building enjoying some heroin. To hear Niall talk about how, the recovering, the person whose drug of addiction was alcohol, to see that everywhere, that really is something that is just, I have no perspective on, but Niall does an amazing job of making me realize what that had to have been like. For me, it's my 7-year-old twins and 5-year-old that always say, "Daddy, try it again." Whew. But it's me passed out on the couch, and I just had enough. You know what, Jason? Saying that in front of everybody here says that you're way farther into this than 3 days. You might be 3 days without alcohol, but you're making jumps. To be able to say that right now at day 3 and share that with a bunch of people who have all been addicts, you're well on your way, brother, to full recovery. And everybody on this boat will agree. I promise you, everybody on this boat will agree. Because that's the kind of stuff that you get out into the light. By keeping that kind of feeling inside. I knew what you meant. By keeping that kind of stuff inside, that's what drives you back to the bottle. The guilt of knowing that and the guilt of feeling that. And the more you bottle it up and the more you keep it in the dark, the more danger you're in. The reason that group therapy works is because you take that information and you let it out and you let the sun shine on it. And that kills that kind of infection. It really does. It's hard to understand alcohol because there is such a thing as a normal drinker, right? Whereas there's no such thing as a normal heroin user. Boom. Great insight. Absolutely great insight. Jason Moots says, Truth says to Jason Moots, you can teach them what it is to get up every day, no matter what. You know something? Truth. Well played. Well played. Jason, he just hit it out of the park. This is an opportunity for you to show your kids something incredible. This is an opportunity for you to show your kids that you can develop into a habit that is dangerous and that is awful, and then you can overcome it. And it is an opportunity to not just show them that this is possible, but it's an opportunity to show them that as difficult as this is, it was your love that really drove this. The fact that you came here and that you said this out loud, you're proving some really incredible stuff. And I know that there's a lot of us here that pulls at the heartstrings, because there are a lot of people here that did the same thing. There are a lot of people here who know exactly what you're talking about. I've said this so many times before, but every single story is the same, right? It is. The names change, the places change, the ages of the kids change, but it's the same story. We all know what it feels like to let down those kids, and we all know what it feels like to see that look of disappointment. But I want to tell you something. Because you're on day 3 and you're just sort of getting into the phase of this, there's a lot of us here that know what it feels like to look at those kids when they're looking back at you, or any member of the family. It doesn't even have to be kids, but to look at a family member and see admiration in their eyes, to see that look of they're proud of you for overcoming that. And I want to tell you something. I have tried all of it, and there is no buzz in the world like that. There is no drug out there that feels as good as knowing that the people around you realize that you're doing it. That is a buzz that can't be bottled. It can't be sold by the gram, and it is unbelievable. It is worth whatever it takes to get there. It really is. I got to go for now. I love you all. I'll be back on the live streams when I'm settled at the new house. Hey, good luck moving, Noise Opera. God bless you, man. We're glad that we're glad you're here. We're glad you're chiming in. You know, and do check in with us when you get to the new house. I hope it's a safe and easy move. Jason, tears are good things, brother. Tears are really good things. Don't let anybody lie to you and tell you they're not. Tears are really, really good things. You know, we had a gentleman on board the boat, and he talked one day. He was going into rehab for alcohol, and he talked for almost an entire night about the disappointment in his father's eyes when he told his dad that he was an alcoholic. And I'll tell you something. I told my dad I was a heroin addict, and I remember that day. And I will remember that day until they close the box. But you know something? I remember on the day that my dad died, I talked to him the last day he was on the planet, and he said to me, you know, he said, this is the last time we're going to talk. And I mean, he was lucid as hell. He was at home. He wasn't in a hospital or anything like that. And I said, don't talk like that, you know? And he said, no, this is if you got something to say, let's get it, because this is the last time we're going to talk. This is my last day alive. And he just knew it. And one of the things he said to me is, I'm going in peace. I swear to God. And I said, what? He said, for the first time in my life, I am 100% convinced that you're not going to do it again, that it's over, and that you're going to be sober. And you know what? I hate that my dad is gone, and it's it's painful, and the years that I wasted were tough. But I know that he knew before he went that this was the one. Like, I'm not going back. And I know people that you don't say never, and you don't do any of that, but I'm telling you right now, I'm never doing this ever again. It's never going to happen again. It's not. You know, for the love of him, for the memory of him, for all of the people around me, for all of you, and for me. I was telling someone, a good friend of mine I talked to on the weekends. He's a crew member on the boat, actually. I was talking to Alan Ballantyne earlier, and I said to him, you know what? I hate going to bed, and I love getting up. For the first time in my life, I'm so damn happy that when the day ends, I wish it had 3 more hours in it. And when the sun comes up in the morning, I love getting up. That's where I'm at. And I have bad days. I got days that suck. But on the whole, I couldn't be happier, man. I really couldn't. And it's possible. It really is. It's like Niall said, you know, you eliminate the chemical so that you can start. It's not that you eliminate the chemical and life gets perfect, because that isn't how it is, man. It isn't. There's going to be trials. There's going to be tribulations. There's going to be days that just plain suck. 10 years into it, there are going to be days that just plain suck. That's what we have created for ourselves. But you know what? It's so worth it. It is so worth it. Because once you get rid of that substance, you can start living life. You can really start seeing what it is that you are and who it is that you are. And that is a payout right there. Man, what drives me to say when and how I say it. It's you, brother. We are on the same street, walking opposite directions, reading the same book in a different chapter. I love that. I love that. Niall is you know what, Niall? I'm so glad you're here. People, do you remember a time where I might not have said that on the lifeboat? It's amazing once you start realizing how much you have in common with people instead of looking for the things that divide you, just the incredible things that can happen, for real. And if you don't get that, be here on Wednesday of next week for Wednesdays with Niall, because the talks that we have together, I think, are really, really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. Sorry, people, I was just checking to make sure I'm not missing anything. The takeaway from today, and I really hope everybody gets this. I hope everybody hears what I'm saying. There is no chance whatsoever that you're going to be able to, at some point, become a normal user of substances. If you think that you can become a social drinker, you're wrong. If you think you can become a guy that just gets high every once in a while, you're wrong. If you think you're a gal that can go out with her friends and maybe just do a little bit of blow on the weekends, or you're just going to do this, hey, a couple of times a year, I'm telling you right now, you're wrong. You're wrong. And it's an experiment that isn't worth trying. It's a waste of time, and it's a waste of life, because a lot of people these days just aren't coming back. The people today, for those of you who are music fans, I'm sure that you're well aware that today we lost one of the, I believe it was the drummer from the band Foo Fighters. And they said that there was a powdered substance found at the scene, and the reporter said a substance that resembled cocaine. Pretty funny, and I mean not funny, haha, but I did a lot of drugs. From 5 or 6 feet away, you're going to tell me what a powdered substance resembles? I mean, I guess if it was that shaly looking, fish scale, huge chunks. But I'm guessing that it was just a white powder. And I'm guessing that as they find a little bit of more information out, that we're going to find out it is really not cocaine. It's more likely that there was an opiate of some kind involved in this. Fentanyl would be my guess, but it could have been any of them. But if you knew the number of people who say, well, I'm just going to come back and get high every once in a while, and it takes them off the planet. This is life or death stuff. That's no joke. This is life or death stuff. If you're sober now, don't screw around. Don't go and think you're going to get it back under control. Don't eat a damn pill ever again. The number of pills that are coming across the border that are pressed, that look professional, that are filled with fentanyl. You know how many people are going to die today from that? It's life or death stuff, people. It really is. Hold on 1 second here. For anyone who has been honest and sober for a while, please contact Tommy regarding an interview. It will keep you sober, and it will give you a reason to talk about why. Wow, thanks, Niall. And I absolutely agree, people. And that's a guy who can speak to you with a little authority about this, because if you're new to the boat, Niall comes on often, and it's the good that it does. I mean, Niall's telling you that it does a lot of good for him, which is awesome. But the amount of good it does for other people, I mean, you really want to pay it forward, and you really want to pass on. People, think about it logically. If you've been able to stay sober for any length of time, well, then you've got a PhD in a subject that a whole lot of people need to hear about. You understand? We've said this so many times. Every single person has a different journey. The goal is always the same, right? The goal is to get up and not have to have a substance in your life every single day. But the number of ways that you can get to that finish line is endless. So if you're someone that's been able to do that, passing that on, paying that forward is a gift. I mean, that's one of the most beautiful things that you could possibly do. A young guy at work collapsed and had a seizure last week. He is in temporary housing, and he's a recovering alcoholic. Been working hard and is sober but struggling. What to be seen at A&E was hard to hear. Yeah. It's very difficult these days. It really is. Every single time you turn on the news, there's somebody that we all knew. Somebody that was a part of our life. I mean, the Foo Fighters, obviously. I mean, we're not talking about a band that didn't have a pretty big effect on a lot of people. And I know many people already reached out to me today. One of the unusual things about being the captain of the lifeboat is if somebody dies of a drug overdose, I get a couple of hundred text messages or emails from people that want to tell me. And I'm not complaining about that. It's just logical, that people want to make sure that it's something that we talk about on the boat, because obviously it is a big deal. I'm sorry. 7 weeks in, back to morphine. Pain levels getting skyrocketing. I will, Swiss Vapor, I will reach out to you and talk to you. Sounds like we need to talk. Hang in there as far as the pain levels go. People, let me say this and make sure that everybody understands this. There are going to be times in life, that pain medication is needed. I'm not judging his particular situation right now or anything like that. I don't judge anybody for anything. But it is absolutely essential that people realize that from time to time, there's no other option. I mean, what they're designed for, sometimes you need. And that is a reality. So I've never been anti-drug. Right? I'm anti-addiction. And I just hope that always comes across. The last thing in the world I want is for someone to grit their teeth and personally, people, I'd rather die than do an opiate, but I'm not the average person. I am that guy. And if I do it, it's the end of the world for me. So, but, there are situations where people need it. You break your thigh in half, I don't think you should be taking an aspirin. There are times that it is an absolute necessity. He was on the phone to his dad and spent too long trying to convince him he had done nothing wrong. Wow. Well, the lifeboat gives people true perspective on sobriety. No lectures, just experience. Mark nailed it last night. There is no other channel like it. You know what? Maybe it's because all of us have been lectured to by the best, right? As addicts, I mean, how many times did everybody we love lecture us? And again, I'm not yelling at them. They always, in their heart of hearts, they believe that maybe if they just said the right thing, if we just heard the right thing from them, maybe this time we would, and society judges us. In society's eyes, we're weak. That's just the way it is. So I'll be damned if we're going to run a channel that way. It's, we're not judging anybody. We're just trying to give you a snapshot of what this is and what it doesn't have to be. The people that come on here and, and open up and do this, it's proof that this is possible, which is really what Bill and Bob did, right? I mean, once you prove that this can be done, amazing things can happen. And it's always what my hope for the boat was. It's a place to own your past, celebrate your victories, and show others that it can be done. That was always the goal. And honestly, with the help of a whole lot of really great crew people on this boat, I believe we're hitting it. I believe we're getting done what we were set out to do, which is a great feeling. It really is. People are getting helped, and that's the most important thing. That is life. We reap what we sow, but that doesn't mean we don't care for others and that we don't need caring for ourselves. Boy, amen. You know what? We used to call it paying the fiddler. Nice. Swiss Vapor says, Captain, oh Captain, it's all under control. It's med, not drug. Nice. My old life is in the past. God bless you, brother. That's what I like to hear. And if it's meds, yeah. I mean, like I said, people, there are times when you need meds. And they're great example, my bobble-headed partner. I mean, the guy had a kidney stone. You're not going to take, and he had to pass it, people. If you know how that works, right? It's like a Chinese throwing star that you're going to pass through a part of your body that you really don't want that going through. And the people at the hospital were, very insistent on, what they were going to give him for pain. And I remember him calling me from the hospital, freaking out about it. And I just said to him, hey, if you got to take it, you got to take it. But the first thing you do, like if I were in that situation, I assure you that I wouldn't have a pill bottle with pills in it. I would set up a situation where the only way I was going to get that was somebody that I absolutely had a massive amount of love and respect and trust in to dole that out. And honestly, it would probably be almost like an incarcerated situation where I go like this and swallow it and go and show them that there's nothing in my mouth, because I wouldn't want I mean, I know who I am. I would try to hold on to 5 of them. And, it's just, there's a sickness to addiction that can't be explained. And here we don't have to, Like, people, when I got out of prison the last time, I had a stroke. And they gave me pain medication for the stroke. And when my probation officer, I've told the story, I don't know how many times on the channel, but my probation officer was in the room. And I didn't know this. And I said to the woman, I said, "What's in the syringe?" She said, "It's morphine." I said, "Don't you give me that. Don't you give me that." And she said, "You're going to need this for pain." I said, "No." And she said, "I understand that you've had problems in the past." I said, "No, you don't understand." I said, "You give me that crap, I'm going to be back in prison. Like, I will crawl." I couldn't use one half of my body. I said, I will get up out of this bed with one leg and one arm working to go get more. Like, you don't understand who I am. And I allowed them to... my probation officer said, "Hey, relax. Take the medication, and we'll figure out a way to get you off it, or whatever the case may be. I promise you that I'm not going to hold it against you, and you got nothing to worry about." Blah blah blah. I took that shot that they gave me, and 6 months later, I was in prison. But that's me, and I know who I am, and I've had some very serious. I will reach out to you anyway, brother. I will. I promise. Whether or not I get to you tonight, I'll try. I may get to you tonight. If not, I will reach out to you because we need to talk. But that's me, people. That is just me. Jason Moot says, "Yeah, I get that." That's who I am. That's who I am. I am an instant ass. All you got to do is add an opiate, and I will become a different human being. And I know, I get people that say really, really nice things, and I get emails that people say, "You know what? You're too hard on yourself." You know what? You didn't know me. Right? You didn't. The guy that you know now, who sits in front of the camera and the microphone and talks to you about life and addiction and all that, hasn't done dope in almost 7 years. You wouldn't have liked me. I promise you, I didn't like me. The person that did opiates and did heroin, there's nothing I wouldn't do, including screwing over every single one of you and anything else. That's who I am. My personality is a very, very different thing when I'm using. Opioids in me like a wrecking ball. On a lighter note, funny to hear about the mail you got from the product placement guy, and he knew all about the show. Have you tried Squirt That Dirt? Pet odor, a thing of the past. Why not? Have you tried Squirt That Dirt? Yeah, you know what? Here's the thing, people. I sent him an email today, and I said, "Tell me what the product is, and tell me what it does for the lifeboat financially, because anything that would make it so that we could do more things here and benefit the lifeboat, I'd be willing to look into that. I promise you, I would run every single thing by you first." Jesse Brown says, "We love you, Captain. Thank you for everything you do." Thank you. That means a lot to me. It really does. And I love you, Jesse. Jesse's been here from Jump Street. He's a great guy. I probably wouldn't like you, to be honest, but I'm glad times do change. Thank you, Ethan. No, I promise you wouldn't have liked me. Honestly, just a really, really reprehensible person. But I have found that I become a pretty good guy when it's out of my life. I'm very happy with who I am today, which is cool. But as far as that product goes, we're going to find out what it is. We're going to find out what it is. And I said in there, just not to beat to death the hugely obvious, but I'm hoping that you're not selling nicotine, alcohol, or anything really stupid that you would want me to pump onto the lifeboat, because obviously that is not something that I would do. Ms. V says, "Okay, all good night, and we'll see you tomorrow." And we will, Miss V. You take care of yourself. I'm glad that you're here. We'll see you tomorrow. People, we are at the top of the hour, so this is the time where we usually say adios, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen. Drugs change people, and people change drugs. Yes, there's no question. Let me see something here. I don't want to miss. I would only have a couple of drinks, a restaurant, and then have to hit the stash in the garage. You know what? I appreciate your honesty, Jason. Keep coming back. Keep being honest. Keep shining light onto the person that you were, and watch what happens to the person that you become. Because I promise you, brother, you are right where you need to be. And I'm not talking about here and all of that. I'm talking about the honesty that you're already displaying, the things that you said about your kids, and coming here and just letting it out and doing it around people. I promise you are doing the right thing. There is nobody on this boat that will argue that point with me. You are doing the right thing. And this is how change takes place. This is how it happens. Just what you're doing. You're ahead of the curve. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. You're ahead of the curve. Let a little light in and watch what happens. People, there's nobody on the other side of the glass, but I am Captain Tommy Scoville. I will be back tomorrow night. Same bat time, same bat channel. Between now and then, be about 23 hours from now, reach out and try to save somebody, because it's what we do. I love this boat. And this is a cat in a basket. You got to admit, she's faithful, right? Every single night. Good girl. All right, good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night. I think I'm going to go get some dinner. Bye-bye.